I have been talking about my treat for the last... Let's start with easy. And I'm going to go Triple H. It's good to have a... Sorry, we're getting right into it. So, this is Fire Pro Wrestling. This is on the Analog Pocket in the dock. How cool does it look? This is around the Christmas period. This guy on this game wasn't originally named Triple H, but I have named him as such because that's who he is supposed to be. It's just the coloring is all not right, you know. I am a massive wrestling nerd. I started watching wrestling in oh, it looks so good on this TV, I tell you what. In 1999, when I was flipping through channels late at night and I found WCW Nitro, and I remember seeing Hulk Hogan and being astonished that he was still wrestling at the time. I saw Rowdy Roddy Piper. I saw some cruiserweights. I forgot who they were. I really want to find an episode, by the way, but we're in a we're coming into an era where the network is being stripped of a lot of content. So I don't know if I would be able to. Because I remember there was like a War Games match, weirdly enough, and a guy was like being handcuffed to the cage and stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so crazy, like seeing this. But hey, and we just talked on that last episode about how spoiled I was, right? Come that birthday, Mum had gotten me a VHS tape. Not a DVD, a VHS tape of, it was like 45 minutes of the like most brutal matches in the WWF in the year, I want to say the year 1998 to 1999, but mostly 1999. At first I was a bit, again, this is me being spoiled, right? I was a bit disappointed because it was WCW. It was the WWF. But I remember knowing that, like, the perception was, oh, it was a bit brutal, was that the WWF is more brutal than WCW. So the perception, even for someone who didn't watch wrestling, had already shifted, you know, right, between those two products. I'm sorry, yeah, if you listen, let me be blunt. If you're really not into wrestling, probably turn off this video right now. I don't mind saying that, because I'm gonna ramble on about, you know, wrestling for a fair bit here. So I'm not gonna be like, wrestling is where you no. If you're watching this, you're a wrestling fan. If you're watching Fire Pro Wrestling on the Game Boy Advance, you know, you're a wrestling fan, you know. Oh, DDT. So the matches that were on that VHS tape, and I remember it was 25 years ago, but I remember it was the Hell in a Cell match between Taker and Mick Foley. And I remember... Oh yeah, so I'll just go through the matches. There was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon in the Steel Cage match from St. Valentine's Day Massacre. There was X-Pac versus Shane... This is a bit of an outlier, but it was such a cool match. By the way, this tape was called Eve of Destruction. You can still probably find it somewhere. X-Pac versus Shane McMahon at WrestleMania for the European Championship. There was The Rock versus Mankind in the Last Man Standing match. Not the brutal Royal Rumble one. No, the Last Man Standing match. And the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian in the ladder match. So they squeezed all those matches on there like compilation, and they showcased some alternative music in it as well. So it was like music clips. So they had like Cypress Hill and Typo Negative, I think, was on there, and it was really cool. And it had like interviews tied in. It was such a good little 45-minute tape. But I remember after watching the Hell in a Cell match with Mick and Taker, I had to turn the tape off because I actually was upset. It was so... You got to understand, I was probably 13 at the time, right? 13, 14. I was upset. I thought that was so brutal. And then I kept... And then what was the next match on the thing? Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin in the steel cage, where Vince flies off the cage on through a table and like almost breaks his back, like legitimately. It's so brutal. So I was hooked. I was such a fan, and then seeing Edge and Christian and the Hardys in that ladder match, you just can't get much better than that. That was WWF, attitude. How awesome. And I was a fan ever since. And then I would rent tapes from the Blockbuster Video, the latest pay-per-views and stuff. And they've got them pretty quick. It's a couple of months after the thing, but they produced those tapes pretty fast. And purchased tapes from Big Dub, our department store down in Bunbury, and I was hooked. I was hooked to the point where, and I get it, it was my hyperfixation. So I would talk to people at school about it. I'd be rambling on, telling the same stuff, and telling what was happening in wrestling and all this, to the point where like my friends would just be like, "Oh my goodness," and have to kind of tell me to stop talking about wrestling so much, which at the time I thought was really mean, they kind of just, if I talk to them, they just walk away, which is, I thought was pretty mean. But when you're 14, fair enough, and hey, I learned my lesson. I did not talk to them. That just became my thing, you know what I mean? Became my... Oh! That was a quick submission. So this game, I do not know how I came across it. X-Pac. But I'm not saying I emulated it. But I emulated it. On The first one, especially. I am, and absolutely fell in love with it. And weirdly enough, I downloaded the Japanese version, which had all the kind of, because that right there, that's X-Putt, right? But he doesn't have the right colors. So the Japanese version of this game, they would be colored absolutely correctly. You could tell exactly who they were, but the writing was in Japanese, and they were called something else. So, but you could rename the things, and I actually navigated these Japanese. This is how obsessed I was, right? I had the kind of energy or strength to kind of do this. I navigated those Japanese menus to put the stipulations: pinfall, submission, no disqualification, but also to rename all the wrestlers, using game facts. Oh, nice spear. You know what I mean? I dare say, I know this is a bit of an aside now, so forgive me, so this is Fire Pro Wrestling 2. This is the one I'm playing because it has more wrestlers. And this was in 2002, so it's got 2002 wrestlers, including ones like Brock Lesnar and the such, and even ones like Booker T and Goldust. I dare say that Fire Pro Wrestling 1 on the Game Boy Advance had a more diverse single player mode. I loved the audience. I think they called it audience mode. And what audience mode was, you had see how I'm kind of, to be blunt, just smashing through these guys. It's easy mode, and I'm used to it. I'm used to the timing of how this game works. If you're not used to the timing, you get your ass handed to you. You had to have a good match, so you had to let your opponent get some offense in and make the match fun for the crowd. And they had different. I might actually show you guys one day, because it's really interesting and cool. They had different quote unquote styles. So hardcore style. So you would pick someone like a Mick Foley, or a Vader, or what was his name? Brody? Oh, I can't remember his name now. So, and like those are the ones that would do like low blows and closed fists, and there's a move where you can pull a fork out and like gouge their scalp and stuff. Like, so that would be, and if you did those, if you did that offense, then you'd be rated out of 100%, So you'd average about probably 65%, and you'd have to get about 65%, I believe, to pass. You were allotted an amount of losses, because sometimes it doesn't matter if you win. If you've put on a good match, well, then that's fine, right? You might notice this guy here. He's interesting, right? There's what I would say is two different types of wrestler style, especially in this version of the game of Fire Pro Wrestling 2. There's the performers, like the Triple H's and the Undertakers. Then there's like the shoot fighters, like the Ken Shamrocks and the Gracies, and they're like ultimate fighters. So he does a lot of strikes and stuff. Because he's actually a shoot fighter, which means he's real. This is like, what do you call it? Why is that illegal? Interesting, it's like a choke. Yeah, so it's cool. They kind of mimic like the UFC or Pride style, which I find really cool. Do it, yeah. Headlock submission. So I've picked two. This my strategy is. I pick a performer and I pick a shoot fighter. Shoot fighter didn't work very well against X-Pac because so what else was I going to say about wrestling? Yes. So I was talking about how I got the tapes and such. And then, you know, slowly DVDs and stuff came in. And then, in 2002, man, it was wild. My mum came and said, hey, look what's coming to Melbourne. And it was the WWE Global Warning Tour in Melbourne. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I didn't, at first it was almost like, it was surreal. I didn't actually think that it was real. You know, and this was shortly after, again, spoiled, right? Not well to do, but because I wanted to watch wrestling, my parents got me Foxtel. You know, like, you know, so I used Foxtel here, which is like basically the equivalent of cable, to watch Raw and SmackDown. And yeah, global warning. So, you know, we flew to Melbourne and watched that, and it just far out. Such a beautiful kind of moment, you know, in my life, seeing WWF live for the first time. You know, there was like Rikishi versus Rico, there was Edge versus Chris Jericho. Weirdly enough, it's not on the replay or the DVD, but there was Test versus Kurt Angle. There was like a tag match with Billy Kidman as such. I think Rey Mysterio might have been there. And then the triple threat match between Triple H, The Rock, and Brock Lesnar. It was supposed to have Hulk Hogan in there somewhere, but like the week before, Brock Lesnar had torn Hulk Hogan to shreds on SmackDown, which I thought was the coolest thing. It kind of sucked though, because like they had this like big interview I remember with Hulk Hogan about coming to Global Warning. He's like, yeah, brother, all the Hulkamaniacs down under haven't been to Australia in 20 years. Oh, brother, oh, it's going to be pandemonium. And then Brock Lesnar killed him. Look, I was never really a Hulk Hogan fan. I respect his contributions to the industry, but, you know, just not the biggest fan of his. So when Brock Lesnar destroyed him, you know, I thought that was, I'll never forget that. I thought that was like the coolest thing, and, you know, showed the changing of the guard. You know, it really, really did. Oh, this guy's actually giving me some trouble. Oh, another high angle slam. Then from there I collected DVDs. I had so many, I still do, so many DVDs. Some of them got wrecked. In my previous apartment, there was like a leak in the laundry, which went into my bedroom, which went to the drawers, which pretty much melted and destroyed a lot of my DVDs, sadly. So it's like a bit of a pity, but that's okay. 2/3 of them pretty much survived, from what I recall. I still got them in the cupboard. I kind of want to display them somewhere, but I'm glad I kept them as well, because it sounds like as WWE is moving to Netflix next month, they're going to be losing a lot of old content. So it is what it is. That's the way the world functions these days. In with the new, and don't care about archiving and You know, keeping that, you know, that's what's important sometimes. Physical media, man. So, in case you guys are wondering, yes, I do have the cartridge to this. My mate Matthew saw this on eBay. He goes, it's actually a decent price. And it comes with the box. Not the manual, but the box. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, why not? So I did that. I ordered it. And it is such a fun game. It's, when they, classify certain games, sometimes they classify them as either arcade fun, where it's fun, it goes fast, SmackDown versus Raw, and you can just spam moves again and again and again and again and again and again. Oh, didn't see that, did you? This is what's known as a sim. If you spam stronger moves and such, it is very likely that they will counter and it won't let you. You can hit your signature move right away if you want. The likelihood of it actually hitting, extremely low. It's cool when it does, but yeah. Ooh, tag. No, I thought it was a tag match. I'll go back to this guy. Mix it up a little. This game's actually really interesting. Like, when I got it, most stuff was unlocked, but I wanted to start from the beginning, of course. And you actually have to corrupt the data. What does that mean? Like, you have to actually corrupt the data to restart it. Which means basically, you know how you play games and it goes, you know, when you see this icon, don't turn off your console. Please don't turn off the console when it's saving, because once it's accessing the data, if you stuff around with it, you can erase your data. So with this game, you actually have to kind of, if you want to start again, you have to do that. So when it got to a saving point, ooh, blood. That was something different as well. Blood in a wrestling game of this kind of like. And in this game, blood does different things depending on, like, you know, on the nature. Sometimes it can drain their stamina a little. Sometimes it can actually make them more angry. Judging from this guy, I reckon he'll probably get a bit more angry, but we'll see. So yeah, to start again, I actually had to like turn my console off as it was saving and restarted my game. So yeah. And what's happening there is because this is a wrestling match, so punches to the face are actually illegal. So the referee's counting to 5, and if he gets to 5 and I don't yield, he actually gets the win. Just FYI, which is kind of interesting. Oh! And yeah, and these shoot guys, the guy I'm playing as now, they're usually submission kind of specialized, so it's best just to go for submissions as much as you can. And yeah, you know, I still watch a lot of wrestling today. I had just actually finished watching Ring of Honor Final Fight. Not a bad card. I think there was like a couple of really awesome moments there, like Commander winning the championship, and Nigel McGuinness. Like, I remember watching like DVDs of him. Like, it's so cool to see Nigel McGuinness back. Very, very cool. I can say it now. It's been a day, right? It will be more than a day actually by the time this comes out. But overall, it shows. It really does show. You know how insanely good WWE production is. People might go, "Oh, you WWE friggin' simp fanatic, whatever." Look, I think WWE really shows how the attention to detail. I watched SmackDown. Pretty good episode of SmackDown. I think it was taped. So oh my goodness, I busted them open already. No, it's just a shadow? Can't tell. Looks like he's busted open already. I kind of like the Braun Strowman Carmelo match. Like, it's kind of cool how they had the count-out victories are so far and few between these days. So I think that's fair. And hey, you know, I'll just say, and everyone's been echoing. It's been a bit of a echo chamber, for lack of a better term. Appreciate WWE. It's hard work on those days for them to tape and to go 3.5 to 4 hours. I understand, but the fact that they can do that tape and have family time, oh, how awesome is that? Like, good on them. I think that's very important. Family and looking after yourself is the most important. And WWE and the wrestling culture itself, if you're a professional wrestler, is just riddled with toxicity and just running yourself into the ground and just not looking after yourself at all. So it is so cool to see that they're like, no, it's, in the end of the day, you're a performer. You're a performer, you're a superstar, you're whatever, you're a wrestler, but first and foremost, you're a human being, man. Like, look, you gotta look after yourself. You know what I mean? So I think, and I applaud that. I've had to come to terms with that after kind of working full on for 13 years. And I mean that. Like, I worked at a pizza shop. I did my university, and halfway through my university, we're very, 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 very lucky here in Australia. The government will put a lot of your education costs on what they call HECS, health debt. So you got a debt, but you don't have to pay it straight off, right? And only when you earn a certain amount will they start to take. It's happened to me, that's fine. Also, if you go to the government, to Centrelink, they will pay you a wage to do university. And, you know, it wasn't much, but I did it, you know. And then, after that, though, after 3.5 years, they stopped those payments. Absolutely fair enough. So I got a job. I got a job at a pizza shop full time. Then my hours dropped because I was slack, lazy, and I didn't want to, cover days that they needed covered. Being completely honest. So then I worked at a burger joint for 6 months, whilst still working at the pizza joint. Whilst the pizza joint then said, okay, we need your help for Christmas and then beyond. Awesome. So then I worked there full time. Straight from full time. Also did full time study to learn how to be an education assistant. Did that for 2 years. Whilst learning also sign language, because I figured why not. Then working full time at an education support centre for 5 years. And that's fine. That's normal life. I'm not saying, oh, poor me, that's normal life. But I don't know, like, come this now holidays, I've just hit a wall. I really have hit a wall of such. And, I'm so proud of myself that I've gone to see my GP, get this list of things that I need to change in my lifestyle, and I've achieved that with my diet, with my, activity, with my mental health, with my sleep, with how my sleep habits and how I sleep and such. And I'm so proud, and and that's a great way to end this on, don't you think? Man, I've talked a lot in this episode. I didn't want to be like a commentator on this. Whenever I hear that and people do that, I kind of cringe a little bit. I've always wanted to be a wrestling commentator, but it takes a lot of skill and not going like, oh, So anyway, Christmas period. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for being tolerating this wrestling episode, but you get to learn a lot about me, right? And you can tell it's my hyper focus because I talked your friggin' ear off about wrestling. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow. You guys all take care. Bye bye.